Hi everyone, welcome back to the series. In the last episode we created our saving and loading functionality. So now we can persist some data in between play sessions. In this episode we're going to take a look at creating a main menu and a game over screen. So there's not much more to say on this, we'll just jump straight into it. So the first thing we're going to need to do, we'll open up our main canvas and we'll create an empty game object. And we'll make sure that's in the centre. And we'll call this in-game UI. So that's going to contain our top panel and our button controls. The reason I want to do this is because the way that I like to control my menus, I have one canvas and multiple panels, and I toggle the panels on and off as I need them. So as you can see now, I have the in-game UI, but if I toggle that off, it removes everything in one go. So let's just go ahead and create a couple of empty objects to hold our menus. So we're going to want a main menu. We're going to want a game over menu. And we're also eventually going to want a shop menu. So each of these game objects are going to have their own scripts for their own button functionality. So again, we'll create another folder just to keep everything nice and tidy, called menus, menu with an S, and we'll go ahead and create some C# scripts. So we'll need a main menu script, we're going to need a game over script, a shop script, and we're also going to want one more, which will be a menu manager. That's going to be our main one. So we'll start with the menu manager. We don't need a start and update, and what we're going to need are some public game objects. So we'll need a public game object main menu, a public game object game over menu, public game object shop menu, and finally public game object in-game menu. Actually, we are going to need one more menu, and that's going to be a pause menu. So we're going to give the player the ability to pause the game when they feel like it. So we'll also add a public game object pause menu in here too. So in this menu manager, this is just going to be responsible for opening up the corresponding menu item that we need. So again, we're going to have to make this a singleton. So that'll be a public static menu manager instance. Create an await method. If instance is equal to null, instance equals this, else destroy the game object. Same as we always do. So what do we want in here? We want some public static methods. They're not going to return anything, so we'll call that void, and we'll have an open main menu. We'll have a public static void open game over, public static void open shop, public static void, what else do we have? Open in game, and public static void open pause. We can also create a few more methods in here. You can create as many as you like in here for whatever menu options that you are using. I like to have a few, such as public static void return to main menu, and one more, public static void close window, and this time we'll pass in a game object. So let's work through these from top to bottom. So we want to open the main menu, so that means we're going to need to set the instance.mainMenu.setActive to true. But while we're at the main menu, we also don't want to be able to see our in-game menu. So we'll set instance.inGameMenu set active to false. And then we'll go over to our game over. We want instance dot, what did I call it? Instance dot game over menu dot set active true. And again, we don't want to be able to see our in-game open shop. Now we're going to access this through the main menu, so we want to make sure that we set instance dot main menu dot set active to false, and then instance dot shop menu will be true. I should probably rename that to open. I don't know why I call that on. And when we want to actually show our in-game menu, we want to make sure that everything else is actually closed off. So instance dot main menu will set to false, instance dot pause menu we'll set that to false as well, just in case. Instance dot shop menu we'll set that to false, and instance dot game over set that to false. For our pause, we have instance dot in game we'll set that to false, and then instance dot pause menu set that to true. And now for returning to the main menu, we can use this as a sort of generic method. We'll make sure that we close everything apart from the main menu. So instance dot game over set active false, instance dot shop dot set active false, instance dot pause menu set active false, and what was my last one? It was my in-game, wasn't it? Instance dot in-game menu set active false, and then finally we'll set our main menu to true. Nothing difficult, it's just quite a lot of repetitive code. There must be a better way of doing this, but I haven't given my menus much thought. So finally we can use our close window method to set the game object that we pass to inactive. So all we need to do there is go.setActiveFalse, and that'll close whatever window we pass in. Now we may not use this method, but it is quite useful in some occasions. But in this kind of instance where we really want to be very particular about what menus are open at a given time, that may not be your best option. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a close alternative to every one of these menus. Well, maybe not all of them, we'll see how we go. First of all, we definitely want to be able to close our pause menu. Public static void close pause, and it's going to be exactly the same as open pause. We're just going to flip the two booleans round. So we're going to want to set in-game to true and pause to false. We're also going to want to close shop, so that'll be a public static void close shop, and again it's going to be exactly the same as open shop. We're just going to flip these round. What else do we have? Now we don't want to be able to close our game over, but we do want to be able to return to our main menu from our game over screen. So for that we could use our return to main menu method, and that may actually be it. We'll soon find out if all these booleans are in the right order. So let's go ahead and create some of our menus. Okay guys, I'm going to admit it, I made a slight mistake here. Any of these methods that are going to be attached to buttons shouldn't be static. So our main menu won't be static. Game over menu will be static. Open shop won't be. Close shop won't be. Will open game? No. Open in-game won't be. Pause won't be. Close pause won't be. And return to menu can still be static. Sorry about that, guys. So now we can actually go ahead and create some of our menus. So we'll start off with our main menu. So we can just deactivate our in-game menu for now, and we'll go ahead and create a panel inside of main menu. And go ahead and size this up to about here. Now if you didn't catch that, if you hold Alt as you resize an object, it'll resize both sides equally. So as you can see, I'm going up and it's also stretching down, and same for the left and right as well. So it just makes it a little bit easier to get everything perfectly centered. So that looks about good. We'll increase the panel's opacity, and we'll go into our sprites and grab our border, drag it into the background, and we now have a nice little background for our main menu. So now inside the panel, first of all we can rename this just to make it look a little bit better. Main menu panel. And inside here we're going to start with image, and the sprite is going to be our logo large, and then we can go ahead and click set native size. That'll make everything way too big, and we can just resize this down holding Alt and Shift to bring everything in, and Shift will keep aspect ratio. So we'll bring this down up to the point where it just fits like so, and then put that at the top, and then just to be on the safe side we'll anchor that to the top edge of our panel. Logo. Next we're going to need a button, and that's going to be a play button. We don't need the text. We'll set this to be 200 by 200, and in our icons we should have a play button. There it is. So we'll put that in. We're also going to want another button. Remove the text again, and this time it's going to be our mute button, and we'll hook all this up when we get into our audio episode, but we may as well put it in while we're working here. So we'll make that 150 by 150, and then we'll add in the music sprite, and we'll pop this up in our top right corner. Maybe a bit smaller for that actually, maybe 125 by 125, yeah, that'll do. And we'll pop that there, and we'll anchor that to the top left. And then just so we remember, yep, that play button's already anchored to the centre. So what else do we want on here? Well, we're going to want a few social media icons as well. So I'll create one more button, call that Facebook. We can delete the text, set it to 150 by 150, and we'll throw in our Facebook icon. Just like so. And then this time we'll take these all the way down to the bottom. These are actually a little bit too big. 100 by 100. And then we can pop this in the bottom left and anchor it to the bottom left. We can go ahead and duplicate this and add as many buttons as we like here. It's advisable not to add too many. It'll make your main menu look very messy. But I usually add in Facebook, Instagram, and I'll also add in my YouTube channel as well. So we'll center the Instagram one, and then bring YouTube over to the far right. So we'll lock YouTube to the far right and lock Instagram to the bottom center. And then we will throw in our Instagram icon and throw in our YouTube icon. And we're going to need one final button for later. So we'll copy our play button this time, and this one is going to be our shop button. Pop that up there, just underneath, and then what do we have? I think it's this one called shop. That'll definitely work. And now we have our main menu design completed. So now that we have all of our UI, what we can go ahead and do is, first of all, link up our play button. So we'll create an on-click event on the play button, and on the main canvas, we'll add in our menu manager. Now all we need to do is drag in our main menu script, our game over menu, our shop menu, our in-game UI, and finally our pause menu. So then what we can do, we can drag in our main canvas into our on-click event, go to our menu manager, and we want to open in-game. We want to open the in-game's UI. But one final thing before we run this, we can head back over to our game manager, and we no longer need our spawn new wave in the start method. We only want that to happen when we press our play button. So we can jump back over to our menu manager and in our open in-game, and we'll just call game manager dot spawn new wave. So now if we play the game, we see the background's still moving, that's fine, but nothing spawns in. We don't actually have our enemies. So if we press our play button, everything pops into place, we're ready to go, and our enemies drop in. So now it's looking like a real game. So next we'll move on to our game over and our pause menus. They won't take nearly as long. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with our game over. So we can remove our main menu just for now, and we'll add in another panel. Again, we'll rename this to game over panel, and we'll size this up. I think that'll be about fine for a game over. Same as before, increase the opacity, and we'll take our borders sprite and throw it in. Set pixels per unit to 2, and we're well on our way. Add a text mesh pro element, game over, center that on both the alignments, and we'll drag in our font. Remember, it needs to be the SDF version of our font, and we'll go ahead and make sure that wrapping is disabled, and we'll just add the carriage return so we have a 2-line game over. And we can then increase our font size, maybe 100 there, and bring that up to the top. And we always want to remember to set our anchor points. We'll change the font colour to this standard green that we have, and now we're going to want 2 buttons inside here. Just rename that quickly. We're going to want one to quit and return back to the main menu, and we're also going to want another one that in the later episodes we're going to reuse, and we're going to be able to watch an advert, and that'll give us another retry. So basically we'll start back up where we left off, full lives, full health, so long as the player watches the completed advert. So we'll just add in those buttons now. We'll add in the button, remove the text, set this to maybe 150 by 150, and the sprite we're going to use for this one will be in our icons, and I should have home. So this button will take us back home to the main screen. And we can just copy and paste that, and we'll just call that a continue button. Now let's have a look at which icon we should be able to use for this. What have we got? Maybe restart? We'll leave it at that, and we'll put a little message underneath it just saying that this will start an advert. So let's space these out a little. And one more thing that I'd like to have in here, I want to keep it quite old school. So I want a countdown timer of 10 seconds, and when the timer's up, we'll automatically be taken back to the main menu. So again, we'll add in a text mesh pro, continue, center everything, disable wrapping, and drag in our font again. So we'll pop that just underneath our game over, and we'll select one of our font colours, maybe the light green, yep. And we'll call this continue literal. Then we can just copy that, call it continue counter. We'll bring that down, increase the size, and we'll just put 10 in there for now so we know how big our largest value needs to be. Let's just try and get this spaced out quite evenly. I think that'll do. And then, like I said, we're just going to have the literal underneath here that says watch ad. And we'll size that one down so it matches the size of the button, or near enough, and put it just underneath. And we could also, just to make things a little bit more symmetrical, add a main menu label underneath as well. So now that we've done that, we can actually resize our panel, as we've now got everything that we need in there. So we can grab our panel and resize it downwards. So everything's going to move with it because we haven't actually set our anchor points yet for these objects. So we can just grab everything here and move it on down. If you can hear that car alarm in the background, I'm not sure whether or not you will be able to. I do apologise. And we're going to want to make sure that our literals and our buttons are anchored to the bottom of our panel, and our continue values are going to be anchored to the center. And then just one final thing, we'll reposition our game over more into the center of our scene. So now let's hook up our go home button. So same as before, we had the on click event. We can drag our main canvas in, main menu, and we want return to main menu. As simple as that. We'll work on the watch ad in a future video, one that I'll dedicate solely to adding adverts into your game. But now our game over menu is completed for now, and we'll finally, whoops, wrong thing selected. We'll disable that and we'll make a start on our pause menu. So again, same as before, panel, pause panel, resize. Now this isn't going to need to be that big, so we can say about this, we'll amend that later if we need to. Full opacity, borders image in, 2 pixels per unit, text mesh pro element, paused, center, center, disable wrapping, add in our font, increase the size, position it to the top, anchor it to the top of the panel, and then select our green color. And again, we're going to need 2 buttons in here, one to return to the main menu if we want, and one to resume the game. So again, button, remove the text, and we'll put in our home button. We'll copy that and call that a resume button. And we'll just reuse the play icon for that one. And just like we did before, we'll space these out, recenter them, and we'll just copy over this main menu literal. So we can keep everything the same size. We'll put that under our home button, copy that out, and this time we'll rename this and we'll call this resume. And finally we'll just resize our panel again and bring everything back to where it needs to be. Perfect. And just like before, once again we'll select our home button, add the on click event, drag in main canvas, menu manager, return to main menu, and then for our resume button we can drag in, as we did before, menu manager, close pause. And just as one final thing, while we have a pause menu now, we'll just disable that and bring back our in-game UI. I've done that again. I've disabled the wrong thing. We want to disable the full pause menu. So inside of our in-game UI, in the top panel, we'll add one more button, and this will be our pause button. We can remove the text, set this to 100 by 100. In our sprite we should have a pause, we do, we'll drag that over, and then we can just go ahead and position this wherever we like. I'm going to position this about here, top left. And if we drag in our main canvas to this button, menu manager, open pause, we should be able to jump in straight away to our main menu. So I tell you what we'll do. We'll add a start function into our menu manager. And inside this menu manager, we can call return to main menu. So what that'll do, regardless of what menu we have open during development, we should always close everything down and reopen our main menu instead. I tell you what I've done, I've dragged the main menu panel in rather than the main menu game object. So main menu, that'll be our main menu. So now if we play this, it should work. And it does. So we've got our main menu, we can now press play, which will start our game. Moving left and right, we can fire, and if we pause, it opens up our pause menu. Resume will open up our game menu. Returning to the main menu doesn't do anything. Let's have a look at that. Pause menu, home button. Return to main. That's because it's a static method. No. Just like that. Remove static. I already apologised for making all these static, but I'll apologise again. So now, let's see if this works. Play, pause, return to main menu, and we do. But we can see that our game is still running in the background, so we need to fix that. So that should be a relatively simple fix, and we can also fix another couple of bugs that may rear their ugly heads. So we'll open up Game Manager. We'll add in a public static void, and we'll call this cancel game. Now inside cancel game, we're going to want to make sure that we destroy the current block of enemies that are active, but in this instance we're actually going to use instance.currentSet while we're in a static method. So instance.currentSet, what else are we going to need to do? Let's have a think. Well, what we are actually going to want to do, because all aliens inside our alien master is a static variable, we want to make sure that we reset that counter. So if we just call alien master dot all aliens dot clear, that should take care of that for us, and we'll also do that before we destroy it in our spawn new wave method as well. Speaking of our spawn new wave method, a coroutine will run independently, so we want to make sure that we cancel that coroutine if it's currently running when we cancel our game. So to do that, we can call instance.stop all coroutines. And then one final thing that we're going to need to do is we are going to need to reset all of our UI values. So we can come over to our UI manager, make a public static void reset UI. And inside reset UI, we're going to want to make sure that our instance.score is set back to 0 and our instance.wave is set back to 0. And then we can just update our UI. That's instance.score text is equal to instance.score.toString, and we're going to mask that just like we always do. And instance.waveText.text is equal to instance.wave.toString. And we'll go ahead and call reset UI when we've cancelled our game. And now it should just be as simple as calling cancel game from our UI manager whenever we return to the main menu. So with any luck, that should be working. So let's just give this a quick test. So we'll play our game, we'll wait for something to spawn in, we get wave 1, we'll kill a few enemies so we have a bit of score. So we've got 100. If we pause and go back to the main menu, we can see that our alien grouping has disappeared. If we play again, we have no score, no wave, and we start back from the beginning. Perfect. The last thing that we're going to do in this one, I understand that this video has gone on quite some time, but we're actually going to pause the game. Now this is extremely simple, it should only take us a minute. So we'll go back over to our menu manager. When we open our pause menu, we want to set time.timescale equal to 0. And then when we close our pause menu, we'll set that back to 1. Now just to be on the safe side here, when we return to the main menu, we'll also set that. When we open our in-game menu, we also want to make sure that we set that as well. And that should be it, I think. So one final play for this video. We'll play the game, wait for our enemies to drop in, pause, and we see everything's completely paused. We resume, everything comes back and is working. Perfect. So well done to you if you managed to get through this entire video. Like I say, I understand this was quite a long one, but we have covered quite a lot in this video, so I hope it has been of some use. In the next video, we'll be adding music and sound effects to our game. I always like to do this right towards the end, just because it always feels like the game comes together when you add sounds. So I'll see you over in the next video then.